Welcome back to the kitchen house. It's the last week of August, and you can see that the tomatoes we planted in the first week of August from seed have really matured to the point where they're ready to be transplanted. Anytime I'm going to transplant a pot, or if I'm purchasing a plant at a nursery, I want to make sure that this plant is ready to go in the ground, but hasn't been in this pot too long. I can check that by tipping it out and looking at what's going on under the soil. So here you can see there's a little bit of root showing amongst that soil. That's perfect. This tells me that this plant has enough root system to go in the ground, but it hasn't been in this pot for too long. There's a lot of times when plants will sit on a shelf, they don't get sold, and they get really stunted, and they're never gonna really recover from being root bound in a pot for too long. So this is the perfect time to be planting these. I'm gonna get a jump on the tomato season, and we'll transplant these in the garden today. So if you remember last week, we built a trellis structure to have these tomatoes climb on. I haven't strung it yet, but the frame is here. So now I have a straight line for where I'm gonna plant these tomatoes. I've spaced them about a foot apart because I really want them to not be too competitive with in getting the nutrients from the soil with each other. So before I plant, you'll notice there's a lot of mulch covering the ground in the kitchen house garden. We really like to have mulch here to regulate an even amount of moisture for the plant. So I'm going to scrape that away first until I get down to some what I think is pretty decent soil. I'm going to plant this not right up against this bar, but maybe just a few inches away from it. When I get down to soil, I'm going to dig down even further. Probably go quite a bit below ground level. Ideally, I kind of want to plant this plant in the bottom of almost like a punch bowl shape. Tomato plants have the unique ability to put roots off of their stems that get buried. So usually you want to make sure that you put plants in the ground right at the same level that the pot was at. But with tomatoes, I can actually bury some of the plant, and where I've buried that stem, roots will come out, and that gives the plant more opportunity to get nutrients from the soil. So I'm just going to pinch these little leaves off, being very careful not to damage the main stem. And now I can bury this plant a good inch below grade. So I'm going to dig the hole quite deep. And like I said, it's going to be sitting kind of at the bottom of this kind of punch bowl. And as that plant grows, I'm going to be able to add some more compost around that plant. I can add some today, some really good compost, give it a boost to start with, and I'm going to bury that almost up to the first set of leaves. And you can see I have this little recessed area where now when I water these plants, it's not just going to run off. It can kind of collect here and then slowly seep in. So anytime I transplant something, I want to make sure and give it a really good drink. And then make sure that this plant stays evenly watered for the next several weeks to make sure that it gets not too much water, but it doesn't get bone dry either. So that's that, and I'll plant the rest just the same.